The Philippines has summoned the Chinese ambassador to protest Beijing's drawing of baselines around the disputed Scarborough Shoal in the South China Sea. China today is sending naval and air forces to that area to bolster its claims. Manila also taking action to beef up its Coast Guard fleet, with reports suggesting some 50 new ships coming from France and Japan from 2027. This would more than double Manila's capacity. Verbal sparring, meanwhile, also continuing. The Philippine Defense Secretary on Tuesday accusing China of ramping up pressure on Manila to surrender its rights in the waters. But Beijing has hit back, saying it has no choice but to retaliate against what it sees as Manila's, quote, infringement and provocation.
We have an interest in...
And more, we're joined by CNA's Buena Bernal reporting live from Metro Manila. Buena, the Philippines, of course, apart from beefing up its own capacities, it's also beefing up its monitoring capacities in the South China Sea.
That's right. I do know from various sources within the Philippine security establishment that the United States is able to continue with the approval, coordination with the Philippine government to provide extra eyes in the sky when it comes to a wider coverage of drone monitoring in the West Philippine Sea, which is how the Philippines calls its maritime zone in the larger South China Sea. This is for resupply missions of Philippine military outposts in the area. Now, from the United States side, what they confirm is that whatever they provide as part of existing security cooperation has the approval of the Philippine government. And in fact, the United States has offered far more than just extra eyes in the sky, following a June 17 incident that the Philippines called a brutal assault by China, as it led to the injury of an elite Filipino Navy personnel in a resupply mission to Second Thomas Shoal, where the Philippines has a grounded World War II ship. The United States made public its offer to escort the Philippine resupply missions, to which the Philippines declined. The Armed Forces of the Philippines Chief of Staff Romeo Bronner saying that the threshold by which that offer will be accepted by the Philippines is when Filipino troops in those outposts are already on the verge of a deadly starvation. Now, I spoke to U.S. Navy Admiral Samuel Paparo on the sidelines of a meeting he had in the Philippines about the U.S. drones in the West Philippine Sea, and he told me, and I quote, "We are monitoring the Indo-Pacific at all times, as is our duty," he said, "in all manner of means by which we can," unquote. Now, it is worthy to note that next week, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin III will be in the Philippines for his fourth visit to the Southeast Asian country.
Meanwhile, his counterpart, that's the Philippine Defense Secretary, has been mentioned accusing China of ramping up pressure on Manila to surrender its rights to waters in the South China Sea. There have been tensions for a while yet, but what reasons are there for the Philippine Defense Chief having greater concerns roundabout now?
On November 10, China released a map drawing baselines around Scarborough Shoal. This is an elevation or a feature within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone that's been ruled by an arbitral tribunal as a common fishing ground for China, including Taiwan, Vietnam, and the Philippines. Now, that ruling said, and I quote, "China, however, is constituted principally by territory on the mainland of Asia and cannot meet the definition of an archipelagic state." In other words, the tribunal said it disagreed with the assertion by China that it can draw archipelagic baselines around Spratly Islands, that group of islands claimed entirely by China and the northeast of which the Philippines labels as its Kalayaan municipality. However, that tribunal also ruled that, quote, "the Philippines is an archipelagic state entitled to employ archipelagic baselines." And so because of that, the Philippines today summoned the Chinese ambassador to Manila, and there have been no details as to what is the content of that summons or even the protest it filed, a diplomatic protest it filed, but it did mention and cite the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which the arbitral award was quoting in disagreeing with the assertion that China can draw archipelagic baselines around Spratly Islands.
Thanks. CNA's Buena Bernal reporting live from Metro Manila.